Everyone wants to take their business, their skills, to the next level. Small and mid-sized business owners have exceptional insight into how to do this. They endure and thrive because they find ways to overcome the challenges that come their way, and they can teach us valuable lessons to apply to our own companies and lives. Stephen Nooner, founder and owner of Alkali, a company with a unique process that helps businesses more effectively buy and manage their insurance programs. And Bob Gibbons, builder of Riata Commercial Realty, a real estate advisor and tenant advocate, are two prominent metroplex businessmen who, along with their weekly guests, will ask their and your probing questions, finding impactful solutions that will help you reach for the next level. Here are your hosts, Stephen Nooner and Bob Gibbons.
Welcome to The Next Level, Conversations That Propel Business. I'm your host, Stephen Nooner.
And I'm Bob Gibbons. And we're excited to be here with another great guest. And actually, we have two guests today.
Yeah.
It's a little unusual. We're excited. We
nice
have
little surprise guest.
Yeah, we do. So we have James Smith and Shane Hobbs. And they are with Dalworth Carpet Cleaning, Dalworth Restoration, and Dalworth several other things.
Dalworth World Domination.
Yeah, I guess we're going to have to talk about intrapreneur, not just entrepreneur, because they, from inside the company, they've created several other companies. So we're excited about that. Everybody's heard of their commercials. They've been on the radio and TV forever, it seems. And so we're anxious for the conversation, guys. We're looking forward to it. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Welcome. And I know it's DalworthRestoration.com. What's your other website? Is it?
DalworthClean.com.
DalworthClean.com. So if you guys want to find more, learn more, go check them out there, be on the show. We like to start off every show with the wisdom of others. And the quote today we have is from Grant Cardone. Massive thoughts must be followed by massive actions. And that was provided by Shane. So, Shane, why is that important to you, and who the heck is Grant Cardone?
Well, Grant Cardone, he's a motivational speaker and super sales guy. And one of the things he does is he preaches we have a certain pace, more or less, that everybody feels comfortable. So if you take and multiply it times 10, whatever action you're taking, and just look at things at a little different view, you're able to accomplish a lot more tasks, a lot more everything if you just multiply everything times 10. So within our company, that's the latest book. We do a lot of reading in our company, and that's the latest book that we've read, and we all listen to it. And so anyway, that's kind of the number one thing that we're paying attention to right now.
And what's the name of the book?
Anyway. Pardon me?
What's the name of the book?
It's times 10, Grant Cardone, times 10.
Times 10.
Very cool.
So I follow a guy named Dan Sullivan from the Strategic Coach, and he has a show and a podcast called 10X Talk. And his friend is actually a guy from the carpet industry, a guy named Joe Polish. I don't know if you guys have heard of him.
We know Joe.
You know Joe. Okay,
Yeah.
well, there you go. But they talk about 10X Talk, and they talk about how to grow your business 10X, a lot of times it's causes you to have to think entirely different than when you're thinking about, 15, 20% growth, 10, and so anyway, I'm just kind of fascinated by that whole concept. So super cool.
Okay, so one thing I was fascinated by in the pre-interview information that, Shane, you gave us, you said that one of your first businesses was a snow cone business. Almost. What exactly does almost mean?
Well, when I was in high school, I had worked. I had a Coke route, where I filled up vending machines with Cokes, and so I saved up money. And one of the things I wanted to do was start a snow cone business. And so what I did is I had a truck that I bought, a step van, an old step van, and I had this truck in my front yard. And my parents, they were real cooperative. I mean, if it would be me now, I would say no way. But back at the time, they did. So what I did is I spray painted the inside, and I bought a snow cone machine, and then I had somebody came up one day and offered to buy the whole thing from me prior to going in the snow cone business, and so I sold it. So that was kind of my first.
So your real business was van conversion to snow cones, but wow.
So James, I mean, how did you guys get into business, and how did the two of you guys get partnered up?
No, it was really completely by accident, I think. I started the business in 1976, and that was after I'd gone to college for about 4 years, and I never really completed my degree plan, and decided that I'd have to, if I wasn't going to get a degree, I'd need to get a trade. And so I responded to an ad one day for a carpet layer's helper, $600 a month. And I thought, wow. If I could make $600 a month, my financial woes would be in the rearview mirror. I'll go for that. And so, anyway, to make a long story short, I ended up taking this job with these guys, and turned out that really they had a big carpet cleaning company, and so I only did the carpet laying thing for a short period of time, and became a cleaner and worked for these guys for a short period of time doing that. And then the guy came to me one day and said, "How would you like to go into business, be my partner? We'll use, your money and my brains."
Yeah, I mean, $600 a month. You must have been rolling in it.
I had a lot of money, And so I
So
said,
who was this
yeah.
guy that showed up? Was this a coworker or what?
No, this was a guy that I went to work for.
Oh,
I worked for him for 2 or 3 years, and I actually had a problem with my knee and had to have an operation. I couldn't clean carpets anymore, and so he gave me a job in the office. And I got to learn the other side of the business. And after I got in the office, he didn't want me to leave. And eventually, he approached me and said, "How'd you like to start, a new company with me? And we're going to do all these great things, and we'll be 50-50 owners." And I said, "Yeah, that'd be great. I'll do that." So that's how we got started. And then after about, it was probably 6 or 7 years after we got started, Shane and my brother, also Rob, came into the business as carpet cleaners. So they started working for the carpet cleaning company as carpet cleaners in the early days. And eventually we approached my partner who wasn't really doing much in the business, and we offered to buy him out, and he agreed to sell. And so when he sold his part out, Shane and Rob, and then my mother, we gave her a little piece too, and so they all chipped in, and we bought him out, became a family business. That's how we got started.
All right.
So I understand that you and Shane are brothers-in-law.
That's right.
So did he work with you first, or did he marry your sister first?
No, I can't remember. Were you already
How'd that go
married,
down?
Cheryl, when you came in?
No, we worked for quite a few years before we got married.
Okay.
Wow, interesting. So what I want to know is, was it called Dalworth Carpet Cleaning from the beginning?
I picked that name, yeah.
So when did you start the advertising on radio and TV and all that
Well,
kind of thing?
in the very beginning, we advertised in the newspaper because the guy, my mentor, the guy that I worked for, that's what he did. Newspapers, TV guides, that sort of thing. And but I never will forget, one day Shane had been out cleaning carpets, and he came in at the end of the day, and he threw this paperback book onto my desk, and it was an old tattered copy of Think and Grow Rich. And he goes, "Hey, I thought you might want to read this book." And I'd never heard of Think and Grow Rich or Napoleon Hill. I didn't know anything about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I started reading that book, and I read that book over and over and over, and I did everything it said to do in that book, and I did it exactly the way they said to do it. And I can remember walking up down the hallway in this little office complex where we had rented a small office, and cold chills just going up my spine from reading this book, because you know what? It became real obvious to me I could do this. I could really turn this into something if I want to.
Uh-huh.
And so really, honestly, I would say that book and the principles they laid down, that, because you got to understand, we had nothing. We had no money. We had a hope and a dream. That's what we had.
Yeah.
But it just worked. And a lot of it I ascribe directly to learning the principles in that book and putting them into use in the formative days, because we had no margin for error. I mean, we just couldn't afford to make any big mistakes.
Right.
Yep.
Where'd you find the book? How'd you get turned on to it?
I found it actually in a home that I was cleaning in a vacant house.
Sure it was.
It was meant to be. It was meant to be. It was meant there. I mean, meant to be to find that book.
So you were intent on having James finish his education one way or the other.
Absolutely. We've learned that a college education is probably pretty cheap.
Well, and then what's crazy is, I mean, I hear from y'all's industry, I mean, that the trades are actually in such demand now that it's like the whole time I grew up, it's like, oh, don't go in the trades. You got to go to college. You got to go to college. And now it's like, go to the trades.
Absolutely. I'm a firm believer in that if you're not meant to go to college.
Yeah.
So when did you guys decide it was time to start another company? How did that come about?
Well, how that came about was, since we were cleaning carpets, people were having floods in their homes, and they would call us to get the water out of their house. And so we started doing that, and then more and more we started getting more calls and started thinking about, well, it would be probably a good idea to start a water division within our company. And then we had another guy that was in the construction area, and so James had worked a deal out with him, and so he came in and was actually running our construction department and our water damage department. And I think he did that probably about a year or so, maybe 2 years, maybe some. It's kind of hard to remember, but and so we did that for a while, and then the partner just wasn't the ideal partner. And so what we did is we bought him out as well. And so that's kind of the way we started in our restoration division. And that was actually in our 1989, I believe.
Yeah.
So you just built it and scaled it up from there?
Yeah.
And how much was one company able to feed the other? I mean, it seems like there would be a lot of synergy between those businesses.
There's a whole lot of synergy between them. Whole lot of synergy. So,
but there's got to be some differences too. So,
there's
what's the big
totally
difference,
different
and how do you market this restoration versus the carpet cleaning?
Well, on restoration, it's just a different business, because we do construction, we do water damage, we do contents cleaning, take all the contents out of people's homes that are on fire or flooded. We have an environmental division, so that if it's mold or anything like that. But they interact really, really, real smooth. And in terms of, we both advertise on TV, although carpet cleaning is a lot bigger.
So
advertiser.
So you advertise on the TV for the consumers that need the carpet cleaning, but I guess your primary client is the restoration. Is it still the consumer, or is it more the insurance companies, the contractors, that kind of thing?
It's both. It's both,
Really?
And we have sales guys too that go out and try to drum up business that way, just hand in hand.
Who wrote the commercial, the jingle that I literally I can't I'm sitting here looking
Clean.
yeah 267 I know the phone number. I mean, who wrote that? Was that a company, or did you guys come up with that?
Yeah, I had early on, I had a rep. The guy's name was Nick Alexander, and he was my sales rep at KVIL, because I had made the decision that I wanted to do something different than everybody else was doing. Because once again, I was reading that book, and I was just determined that we were going to do a whole lot more than my mentor had done. He had a pretty booming business when I worked to work for him. And so so we started doing the radio advertising, and that was something different. And so that's kind of how we got started and used to, get comfortable with doing media advertising.
We're going to go to a break. We've talked about the thriving added divisions. When we get back, we're going to talk about closing divisions and how you know when it's time to pull the plug. Stick around.
And now, Confessions of a Recovering Landlord.
This is Bob Gibbons with Riata Commercial Realty, and I am your recovering landlord. After 20 years as a landlord, I now use that experience only for the benefit of companies that lease or buy office buildings and warehouses. Today's confession: knowledge is power. We all negotiate from a position of power and strength, or at least we want to. In any negotiation, the party with the most knowledge probably has the upper hand. And landlords count on this being the case whenever you're negotiating a lease, because most landlords are professional real estate investors, and they hire professional leasing agents and property managers. Landlords are in the market every day negotiating leases, while tenants probably only negotiate 1, maybe 2 leases every few years. So tenants feel outgunned. Don't let landlords have all the power. As a former landlord for 20 years, I understand how landlords think and what motivates them. So let me put that knowledge and experience to work on your side of the negotiation. To learn more, contact me at texastenantrep.com. Again, that's texastenantrep.com.
Have you started making plans to take your business to the next level in 2016? Hi, I'm Stephen Nooner, founder and CEO of Alkali. We have a trademark process called the Empowered Advantage that enables CEOs, business owners, and entrepreneurs to more effectively buy and manage their insurance. Before sitting down to make your plans for the new year, here are just a few things to consider. Would you say that you have an actual insurance strategy, one that you can articulate, or have you just purchased a policy here and there over the years? If you have an insurance strategy, was it discussed under the pressure of a renewal deadline or considered earlier in the year to avoid fire drill decision making? If your answer was no to either of these questions, then you may not have the right partner on your team. Visit alkaliservices.com to contact us and take the next step to a bigger and better future.
My name is Drew Clancy. I'm CEO of Publishing Concepts, and Bob and Steven aren't. Thank goodness.
Welcome back. We're here with our guests, James Smith and Shane Hobbs of Dalworth Dalworth Restoration. You can find them online at dalworthrestoration.com, dalworthclean.com.
Or Dalworth.com.
Or Dalworth.com. There's all kinds of, just put in Dalworth. you'll find these guys one way or the other.
You probably have the phone number burned in your brain anyway. So, hey, so I use this as a hook before winning the show, and obviously you guys have had a lot of success. You've been through a lot of economic cycles, everything else. You've expanded divisions. This is a long question, a lead up to it. But I also know that you guys have had to close a division. So tell me, just from a fellow entrepreneur, I'm just curious, like, what were the signs, what were the signals, and what did it take to do that without disrupting your momentum everywhere else?
Well, one of the things that it's real easy to do, and that is, hey, I can do that. We can do that. And we have that habit, or real bad. We can do that.
Okay.
And so we took on cleaning, encapsulating crawl spaces, as well as doing home performance, and insulation in homes and all that sort of thing.
Okay.
So we did that, 5 or 6 years, and then we're real fortunate. Everything's growing. But so I made a decision about a year ago that I had to close down the crawl space as well as the home performance and focus more energy on our restoration side.
Okay.
And that was a real hard thing to do, because you kind of feel like you failed and all that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that was probably one of the best things that we did, and we can focus much more on a more narrow area of work for restoration, that sort of thing.
I've seen a trend among a lot of service companies, particularly air conditioning, plumbing, that kind of thing, where they kind of have always been one thing, Milestone Electric, or, you name it, Benjamin Franklin Plumbing, but then they seem to, all of a sudden, they drop whatever that last word is. It's no longer plumbing on the end. It's no longer HVAC on the end. It's just whatever. And they are into a lot of different things, and they do all those different things now, it seems. Baker's Brothers is another example. I mean, all those guys are doing everything. So is that kind of what you were saying, where you kind of felt like you couldn't say no because it was an obvious next thing?
Yeah. What you and just it just I thought my sales would go down, and we just realigned our people and picked right back up on the restoration side and didn't suffer any in sales or anything.
That's
so
awesome.
it worked out real well, and we're a much more cohesive group. When you start advertising those different services, it kind of can take you in different directions. You don't generate leads a little differently from one trade to the next. So.
Yeah. And so follows kind of, we've talked about books today, but Good to Great, they talk a lot about the hedgehog and everything else too. So they can focus.
So you mentioned advertising. I want to go back, James, to some of the questioning we were talking about earlier about advertising, and you were saying that on the break that your primary client or decision maker is really the woman in the household.
That's true for the cleaning side, yes.
Okay, so tell us a little bit more about that and how that's impacted your advertising.
Yeah, well, about 10 years ago, I decided to hire a full-service ad agency. I'd worked with them in the past, but I found one in Dallas by the name of the Barbershop that was all female. and I thought it'd be a good idea to have an all-female group handling my advertising and get a more of a female perspective on messaging and so forth. And so I hired them, and at the time that we hired them, the name of the company was Dalworth Carpet Cleaning, because in the beginning, that's what we did. We were just a carpet cleaning company. But by the time, we hired this agency, we were doing a lot of things. We were cleaning everything on the floor, taking care of the wood floors, taking care of the tile, the stone, polishing concrete. We're doing duct cleaning, upholstery, drapery. All kinds of services we were doing. So carpet cleaning was just a part of what we did. Yet we had spent all this money over all these years to brand ourselves as a carpet cleaning company. And even to this day, because we spent literally tens of millions of dollars to promote that name, Dalworth Clean, and that jingle that everybody's heard, which I'd never finished that story because my rep from KLIF was the guy that wrote that jingle. He split out from KLIF, formed a partnership with a guy, and I was their first big customer in their little ad agency they had, and they wrote that jingle for me and sold it to me for $3,500.
Oh, wow.
Just one-time cost, and that was probably the best thing that I ever did.
Oh, man.
By far.
I mean, it is
we've had customers call up and you ask them, how did you hear about our company? And they'd say, well, I called information. This would be a few years back. I called information and they sang it to me. But anyway, I hired this ad agency of these ladies, and one of the recommendations they made early on was to change the name, drop the word carpet, and just make it Dalworth Clean, since we do all these other services. And so we did that 10 years ago. And I've spent a lot of money in the past 10 years to promote the name Dalworth Clean and the fact that we do all these services. But there's still a whole lot of people that think the name is Dalworth Carpet Cleaning and that all we do is carpet cleaning.
Yeah.
Wow. Interesting.
So, Shane, you have a unique distinction to you. We send a guest packet, to allow our guests to kind of prepare their thoughts for the show. But one of the things that is unique to you, we ask every person that comes on, if you wanted to 10x your business, what would you need to be doing differently that you're not,
Right.
And you're the first to say, we're already doing it. So what are you doing? And
well, we think we are.
Oh, no, don't start qualifying.
No, come on now.
There's a book that I read called Scaling Up by Vern Harnish, and after reading it, I could tell it was real powerful. And so what we did is it's a complex book. So I went out and hired a business coach.
Okay.
And he is a trainer for Vern Harnish. The group's called Gazelles.
Okay.
And so anyway, he came in and started teaching us how to think about the business in a lot different way. And we started doing that, and it was just almost immediately we could see a big result. And now we're approaching our third year, and we're growing at a 20. We've been averaging a 25% growth rate the last 3 years in a row.
That's
And
awesome.
so also too, one of the things that we did this year is hired a CFO, a part-time CFO that's made a tremendous difference. And so now we're planning out 5 years. We're doing a lot of things we didn't even think about 5 years ago. So anyone that's out there that's trying to grow their business, there's a lot of good books out there, a lot of good books, a lot of good information. That Scaling Up book, I think it just doesn't get much better than that. That's my opinion.
So quick question on that. So of all the things that you're doing that's moving the needle right now, what was the most difficult one to implement and why?
Well, probably the most difficult is just getting started. That was because the first thing that we recognized was our accounting system and our operational software just wasn't going to cut it as we move forward. So we took and completely went to a whole new accounting system and a new operational system, and that's a pretty big undertaking.
It's a huge undertaking.
In the accounting side, at least it was for us. But we started seeing improvement real fast, just real fast, not just from the accounting, but just the thinking of the management team. It started transitioning. I could see it and I could feel it. And so I think the accounting piece was probably the most complicated. And once we went through that, and that was a long period of time, everything else kind of bolts on. You know?
So did you realize your need for a new accounting system before you had the CFO or after you had the CFO?
This was before. We do a lot of construction work, and so we have jobs that overrun the month. And so we have trying to keep our cost aligned with our revenue was quite a task, and we found out we had to hire quite a few people, and I'd always thought, well, in your accounting department, you don't need very many people, and my thought on that has changed 100%. In the Scaling Up book, when you read that, you'll see what I'm talking about. You need your numbers, you need the accuracy of the numbers, and you need all these people focused on numbers of job costing all the time. So it's been a big improvement for us.
So how has that changed the culture of the company? I mean, when you start bringing in a fractional CFO, you start bringing in other people, you bring in a coach, I got to believe that implementing all these new systems is going to set really well with some people and not so much with others.
You know, I think I was pretty fortunate. Everybody was really wanting to buy into it, and that was wonderful. We just had to think about, creating core values, just a lot of stuff that you just would never done. And so by doing all that, man, everybody was part of that, and so that helped unify the company much more than anything else.
It's an incredible story to me, because for a company that started in, what was it, James, 1976?
Yep.
And to have had so much success for so long and to be such a household name in your market, to then have that realization that, hey, we want to take it to a new level and to bring in these other outside. I really got to hand it to you guys, because I don't know that most people would really make that leap.
Well, thank you. We see the future is we feel like the future is really big, and we're just now getting started.
So are you staying in, is your market just DFW, or do you guys go throughout else?
Primarily Dallas and Fort Worth. However, we go to Houston, we go to Waco, we go to Austin.
For the restoration, or
for
also
the restoration
for the
side.
I bet you're busy in Houston right now.
And well, we didn't actually go down to do any work because we were so busy here. So so that worked out real well. So and we've traveled a lot around the country. So but primarily our business is right here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area.
Is that part of your 10X, is to go beyond that?
Right now, it's really not. You'd think you could do that, but there's a lot of opportunity right here. I think we gain more opportunity by expanding our services right here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. We're just real fortunate. We live in a wonderful part of the United States.
Amen.
And so we're going to take advantage of it. Not to say we would never do that, but for right now, we're going to stay put.
So just that inflection point, you guys are bumping along, doing great, and then you're talking about scaling up. Was it the book that caused you, the thinking to shift to say we want to go to the next level? What was the thing that drove that?
Well, the thinking was we always want to go to the next level. Just didn't have the appropriate education. The thought processing wasn't correct, and hiring a business coach was huge. And there's so many professional people out there that have the ability to help you in your business. And more, I see that more and more all the time, and so just take advantage of it.
And you mentioned you didn't have the education, and what I was going to say is that that education has nothing to do with letters behind your name. It has nothing to do with college or MBAs or anything else. It's just a willingness and a desire to learn. And guys, I'm sorry to say we're at the end of our time. Thank you so much for being our guest today. For our listeners, please go to DalworthRestoration.com, DalworthClean.com, or just Dalworth.com. If you want to go to learn about the show, just go to nextlevelshow.com or find us on podcast at The Next Level Show.
If you heard something today that someone else needs to hear, please help share and spread the word.
We'll be back next week with another great guest.
Have a great week.
Thank you.
You have been listening to The Next Level, Conversations That Propel Business with Stephen Nooner and Bob Gibbons. Join us every Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. for more prolific conversations that will take your business to the next level.